My name is Fiona Annan. I am the Assessment Consultant for New South Wales, WA, Queensland and Northern Territory. Please meet my colleagues.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Rose. I take care of New South Wales as well and the ACT.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nadine and I look after New Zealand, Tasmania, South Australia and Victoria.
Okay, so on the screen now, you will see the results timeline. So your school will be notified when the results are released online by email. The results are published online between 7 to 10 days after the sitting window closes. And writing is the exception. These are manually marked, so therefore between 5 to 6 weeks to be published online. When the results are published online, the certificates will be posted 2 weeks after to your school. Now, your school will be notified of any potential medal winners. That's the timeline. Let's have a look at the results portal. To get to the results portal, if you hover over the login on our website, so the ICASassessments.com, you do need to sign in using your 8-digit school code and password. So please let us know if you don't know this. Okay. So ICAS gives educators valuable data that can be used to complement their curriculum in a variety of ways. Its results can help teachers to refine learning programs, be used to promote your school, and most importantly, help to lift the academic performance of every single student. However, when we are looking at ICAS results, they are only one small piece of the puzzle, but when triangulated with your internal assessments, the insights become even more useful. Okay, from your dashboard, you will see a full history of any assessments your school has sat in previous years. You can use the drop-down menu to filter calendar years and subjects you wish to look at. The subjects that are highlighted, coloured, they're the ones that have been purchased. You can also see some calendar years are highlighted in grey. This means that the assessments were our paper format. Anything highlighted in orange was online format. If your school participated when they were paper format, I quickly want to show you how you can access our free past papers. So if you click on the 2007, select Mathematics, select Year 4, and down the bottom, if you see the questions, click on the questions. Okay, so you can double click on any question. This will bring up the question exactly how it appears in the test. And ICAS questions can be utilised in the classroom by bringing it up on the board as a daily or weekly practice to develop your students' higher order thinking skills. And you also have there the correct answer. Okay, let's have a look now at our landing page. Let's select the 2023, mathematics. At a glance here, you will see how your year levels are performing. You can see the raw score average for each grade level, where your school average is compared with the Australian or New Zealand average. We are showing you a test score, so you will see state there, but it would normally say AU or NZ. The raw score is the total number of questions that a student gets correct in the test. Maximum possible score for that subject and year level there. You can see the standard deviation, which is very important for differentiation. You also have a breakdown of how many students received an award in each category. So we have the high distinction, credit, merit, and participation. And on the right-hand side is the total number of students that participated. Your school leaders will also be able to see where your students are sitting and compare previous year's data by clicking on the 2022 year and see how the cohorts are performing year on year. Also, your grade coordinators can see how their cohorts are performing, whether their students are sitting at the tail, middle or top end. You might see that the majority of students sit at participation level because it's a skill-based test. So we would want to see more students sitting at the credit, distinction, high distinction range, and that can only be achieved by testing higher order thinking skills. So if you click there down bottom on the certificates, From here, you can print the certificates. However, they're not going to be on the same sort of nice stock that we send to you. In each subject parcel, you do receive a school certificate, certificate of appreciation, and a principal's award certificate. Okay, I'll hand it over to Rose now for a deeper dive into the results portal.
Thank you kindly, Fiona. Okay, so just for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to pick a random year and go through it together. So I'm going to pick year 6 and we'll take a little deeper dive into year 6. So just at a glance, I can see in the graph at the top right-hand corner that most of my students have actually achieved a participation. As we continue to work on our critical thinking and problem-solving skills, perhaps using the questions that Fiona just showed us, I would like to see more of my class achieving higher awards. On this page, you can see your cohort result versus the school result and the nation. I will talk about how you can use these scores to make informed decisions about your learners in just a moment. But first, in this view, I want to note that we are currently looking at our results from a cohort level. Please note that you will need to select a filter in order to see comparative results, because when all students are selected without a filter, both scores will appear the same. Okay, so I can use the filter on the left-hand side to see different breakdowns of the results. I can use it to see how many different class groups have performed within the cohort, as well as a breakdown of gender. These filter options are only available if you include them in your original upload. If you didn't and you would like to, please reach out to your relevant assessment consultant and we can definitely help you out and get that sorted for you. Let's take a closer look at 6A by clicking 6A in the drop-down menu. The first thing you will notice is that as soon as I have selected that class, the filter in the graph now changed to reflect the performance of 6A as a whole. So I can see how many students within this particular class group have achieved a participation award, a credit, and so on. So at a glance, I can see by using the graph how this class is going on a whole. At the top, I can also see a summary that will compare Class 6A's average score versus the cohort and the nation. Here we can see that Class 6A is performing slightly behind our national and school average. If this was my class and I saw that my class was performing below or even above average, the first thing that would come to my mind would be, well, what areas do we need to work on and what areas have they got covered? So if we scroll down, we can see a more detailed view of the performance of 6A in each of the outlined skill areas that ICAS has assessed them. This data can be easily used for planning, programming, because you can see where your students may need further support and where they may be excelling. So I can see that 6A is actually falling behind in perhaps average in algebra and patterns, and they are below the nation and school average in this particular area. So then my follow-up question would be, well, now that I know which skill area I want to focus on, can I get a little bit more information on what was assessed so I can cater my teaching and learning to them? Yes, you can. This is where I would use the filter on the left-hand side again to narrow it down to questions. And just a reminder that at any point in time, you can export the results into a spreadsheet and print them out. Now, for the years between 2006 and 2018, you can see and utilize our past paper questions in this section. But from then on, we went online, and because of the interactive nature of our questions, you won't be able to see them. But you can see a more detailed description of what specifically was being assessed in that particular question, for example. If you press areas assessed at the top of the screen, you can see that all questions within that area become grouped together. So if I look at question 13, I can see that my class may need a little more work on solving a problem involving addition, multiplication, division with no remainders. This is valuable information that I can use when preparing my scope and sequence. I may want to incorporate some multiplication and division questions with no remainders, perhaps in my class warm-up for tomorrow after seeing this type of data. I can also use the state score percentage, which is actually the national average according to your locale, to gauge the difficulty of the question. You see, if I can see that 24% of the nation got this question right, then I understand that it may have been a harder question, and maybe not as hard as question 2019 perhaps, which only shows a 4% correct nation rate. Next to this column is the school average, which for this demo school is the same as the nation average. But I want you to know that your school will show how your school performed as a whole. So again, you can see how 6A performed, not only against your school, but against the national average. And this view is on an individual question level. Now, if there is a significant difference between your school average and the national average, you will see a capital S to represent strength or a capital W to represent weakness. The weaknesses, of course, will be an area that you will want to focus on. This will appear in the last column on the right-hand side. Now, I'll pass it over to Nadine, who's going to walk us through our student view.
Thank you, Rose. So we've had a look at the summary view for the entire school, and we drilled into the individual cohort and classes, and now we'll go through the student view, which is on the left-hand side. We press student. So here, because I have applied my filter for 6A, I'll only see the results for 6A. However, if I'd like to have a look at the entire cohort of Year 6, I can simply remove the filter by pressing all students, and I'll have all of their data there for me. You can use these banners at the top and you can filter them as you wish. So you can filter by class if there are multiple classes. You can filter by first name in alphabetical order, the same as last name alphabetical order. You can filter by their score to have the lowest scores or the highest scores, which are great if you want to identify students who require extra support, or if you want to pinpoint any students who are high achievers for any presentation assemblies or any potential gifted and talented programs. You've also got the school percentile, the sample state percentile, the national percentile, also their TAP ID and PIN. You are also able to have a look at a different view here by looking at their results by their skill area, which is perfect for reporting purposes. So here, again, you can export this as an Excel spreadsheet, but you'd be able to see how each of your students scored in every single skill area. Once again, it is interactive, so you can filter by the lowest or by the highest, which is great for something like mathematical grouping or reading groups, if you want to understand who you'd like to extend or who would like further support in each area. When you go into pressing an actual student name, then it takes you into their portfolio. Here we can see Aiko, how he performs versus his actual class average, against the school average, against the national average, and the maximum possible score. So we can see that this student is performing better than the class and the school average. And here we can see in a bit of a graph. At a glance, I can see exactly how this student is performing in each of these areas, which is perfect for parent-teacher interviews. When parents come and ask what is the next step for my child, at a glance you can see, okay, they're doing very well in number and arithmetic, but for example, further support may be needed in, for example, chance and math. This view, the parents are also able to see they receive the printed certificate, they also receive their printed results, and they also have access to this online portal where they can see exactly what we're seeing. However, the teacher view we can see versus the school average. However, on their own individual, they'll just be able to see how their child performs against the nation and the maximum possible score. You can also have a look here at the questions to see how this individual student performed with the questions. Once again, you can filter by the areas assessed to see, for example, in algebra and patterns, or where can they have further improvement. Once again, you can also filter by the description, which is the verb, by their answers, so having all the incorrect answers or all the correct answers, by the national average, the percentage of it being correct, or even the school average, or even this class average. If a student misplaces their own individual certificate, this is where you'd find it. So the certificate for each individual student is located here, as well as the print summary for the individual results. However, here we've got the bulk printing. So going back to this view, you'll be able to print full student reports if you like, full student summaries and questions. The student handout would have the TAP ID and PIN for every single student. So when you receive your certificates, at the back of each certificate, each student will have their TAP ID and PIN, and that will be the same year on year and for all subjects. However, for our new students who are quite eager for their results and don't like to wait for their certificates, you can actually print it from here and you can distribute that to your school. So once again, we'll have the student name with their TAP ID and PIN. You can just print that and distribute. You've also got the certificates for all students if you'd like to print them, or just certificates without participation for your high achievers as well. So this is just basically what our dashboard is, and all the things that you can get from that. So we'll just do a very quick overview of what we've had a look at so far. So once again, this is your dashboard, which will have all of your results year on year for both REACH and ICAS assessments, noting that any year which has a grey banner means it was a paper-based test, and you've got access to all of those past papers if your school participated in those respective years. Then you've got your summary and dashboard, which has all of your grades and your entire school at a glance. You'd be able to see exactly how your students performed, to see exactly where there is room for improvement for each cohort. Then you can apply filters for all your students viewing your entire cohort versus the class or versus agenda. Here you can also have a look, so looking at summary again, if I apply a class filter, classroom teachers can have a look at how their individual class performed against the rest of the cohort. This is great for monitoring stream classes. For example, if you have support classes or if you have SEAL programs or gifted and talented programs. But it's also good for mainstream classes to identify students who may be overperforming, which you didn't realize. For example, in this graph here, we've got a student who has achieved a high distinction amongst the rest of the pupils who achieved a participation. Which is great because a lot of students identify their own strengths through doing ICAS, which is great. Then you got the questions here. Again, you can see at a cohort level, once again, you've got your weaknesses and strengths for that cohort level. But if you apply your class filter, you'll be able to see the individual strengths and weaknesses for that particular class for each question area. We will note that this is writing. Writing looks a little bit different. Unfortunately, it's not in our demo portal, but instead of questions, we do have criteria. And so what is different between ICAS and, for example, something like NAPLAN is that ICAS provides the same stimulus for grades 3 to 10, which is different to NAPLAN. We have, for example, years 3 and 5 have one stimulus, and years 7 and 9 have their own stimulus. But we give the same stimulus throughout, and we mark it in exactly the same way, which is why a lot of our schools love doing ICAS writing, because they have a look at the raw score of each child, and they're able to see exactly how each student compares with each other across grades. So they can actually see, for example, if a year 6 student performs the same as a year 9 student, or even vice versa, if a year 9 student performs at a year 6 level, because it is marked in exactly the same way, under the same conditions. We can also see that you have a criteria, it is criterion reference, and you can group them in terms of the description. For example, if we're looking at figurative devices, it will be cumulative in the achievements. So for example, 27% of Australia achieved a 1 mark, and you can have a look at your school and you can have a look at your class as well. And then only 8% will manage to get the score of 2, and then only 1% managed to score 3. And then that will be for the rest of the rubric as well. And then we can have a look at your individual students, how each of them performed. Then going into every single individual student portfolio, how they performed against their class, their school, the Australian average, and the maximum score in each area as well. These are the skill areas of assessment. We've been showing you mathematics. And then, for example, we've got each individual question for the student. But these are also the skill areas that we have across all of our subjects. So you'll be able to find this on our website as well. So if you go into our subject frameworks, if you're interested in seeing what more we assess, here we've just taken you to ICAS and we went to subjects. You can have a look, for example, if I'm a science teacher and I'll find out more about what ICAS science is about. You'll be able to see just above the By ICAS tab for years 2 to 6, and this one is years 7 to 10, you've actually got the assessment framework. So for example, if we have a look at the primary framework, I can see the introductory paper, which is equivalent to Australia year 2 or New Zealand year 3. I'd be able to see the skill areas, so the knowledge areas are here, the content that we cover, and also the skill areas that we cover. And these are the sorts of questions which are asked within a year 2 paper or year 3 paper, and then it will keep going for each of our papers. So you can have a look at that across all subjects and across all grade levels. Sorry. So that's pretty much our dashboard. Do we have any questions? Okay, so I can see in the chat we've got, did we speak about setting up the testing informing parents? So that one was as part of our last webinar. So we are happy to send that one through, or if you want to touch base with your individual assessment consultant, and we can take you through the entire process there. Do we have any other questions? All right, so we are just noting the time that we are 1 minute over, so we'll stop this at yes, we will be sending through the recording shortly, so probably tomorrow when it's ready. So that will be emailed to you. Yeah, so Georgia, if you don't mind just letting us know which state you're from, please. Yeah, so that will be me. I'll look after you as soon as we get offline. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I appreciate it. And for those who are on holidays, happy holidays. And for everyone who is on the home stretch, we wish you all the very best for the remainder of this term, and we hope to see you all soon. Thanks, everyone.